So Habib from Indiana asked me in one of my previous videos. He wanted to know, why did Nigeria sack Shaibu Amodu after he qualified us for the World Cup in 2010? And why did those that sacked him pick Lagerback to lead Nigeria to the World Cup? He had a good track record, but there was one thing wrong with him. He was Nigerian. And those that were influential in Nigeria did not believe that a Nigerian should coach at the World Cup, and Amodu was sacked. My name is China Ikwereman Acheru, and I'm Nigeria's #1 storyteller. Amodu had coached the team 3 times previously, but the last time he coached the team was in 2002. He took over the team in 2001 when Nigeria was bottom of the table, almost not qualifying for the World Cup, with Bonfrejo as coach. He came in and won a few games at home and we qualified for the 2002 World Cup, but he was sacked at the AFCON because we finished 3rd. Now, he was called back to the team after Betty Vokes took us to Nigeria's worst AFCON performance since 1982. And in the first round of World Cup qualifiers, Nigeria had a perfect record. In a group that had South Africa, Sierra Leone, and Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria won every single game home and away, scored 11 goals, and conceded 1. Guess what? Nigerians still complained that the team was not playing well. In the second round of qualifiers, second and final round of qualifiers, Nigeria was in a group with Mozambique, Kenya, and Tunisia. Yes, we got past that group and we qualified for the World Cup. But Nigerians still complained that the team was not playing well. Then we went to the AFCON in 2010 and we finished 3rd again. And Nigeria complained that the team was not playing well and that Shaibu Amodu cannot take Nigeria to the World Cup in South Africa, or else he would disgrace Nigeria. At that time, a certain Rotimi Chibuike Amechi was governor of Rivers State, and he was very interested in football and the Super Eagles. At that time also, he was close friends with the president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. So he was able to convince the president that Shaibu Amodu, as coach of Nigeria, he plays what Amechi described as heart attack football, saying that we may eventually win the games, but a lot of Nigerians will suffer heart attack before we win the games. So he called it heart attack football. And he convinced the president, Goodluck Jonathan, to set up what they called a presidential task force to sack Amodu and get a better coach for the Super Eagles that would do us proud at the World Cup in South Africa without Nigeria playing heart attack football. And the search party went on. A few coaches were called up: Gus Hiddink, Sven Goran Eriksson, Glenn Hoddle. They were called up for the interview and none was picked. Now, just after Goran Eriksson was interviewed, he came out to the press and made a damning comment. He said those that interviewed him told him that his salary will be divided into 2. Half will be paid into his account and half will be paid into another account. He had no idea what it was for. So he turned down the offer. Now, when he wrote his autobiography years later, he also included that part in his book. Glenn Hoddle never spoke about it. But many years later, in an interview, all Glenn Hoddle said was, when I was interviewed for the Nigerian national team coaching job, there were lots of irregularities in the interview process. Now, eventually, we got Lagerback. And why did we pick Lagerback? According to those that interviewed him, they said he had a database of Nigerian footballers. His knowledge of Nigerian football was so vast. He knew our players who were even based in obscure places. And that was why they picked him. So the NFF, with support from the Presidential Task Force, decided that Lagerback will coach the Super Eagles for a 4-month period, a 4-month contract. To let this sink in, the NFF president at that time, Sani Lulu, stood by Shaibu Amodu. But the powers behind him, behind the the task force were too great for him to fight. So he had to concede and let Amodu be sacked. But he did one thing. He ensured all Amodu's entitlements were paid as if he coached the Eagles at the World Cup. And Amodu was in South Africa, though not as a technical member of the team. I hope that answers you, Habib from Indiana. Is there any question you want to ask about Nigeria in the World Cup from 1970 to present day? Ask in the comment section and I'll get you answers to that. My name is China Acheru and nobody does it quite like me.